we will go deep into the realm of the unknown and question everything as we search for the truth. We will explore the possibility of countless phenomena within the ultra spectrum, and together we will learn that it is all connected. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association, and it is a live stream broadcast. If you have a question, send me a super chat or become a YouTube member. This podcast is brought to you by the Experiencers Support Association. Take a seat, relax, get ready, and welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat.
Sorry. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Today is Thursday, May 19th, 2022, and I, Ryan Stacey, am your host this evening. I'm a licensed private investigator, a citizen journalist, and the director of investigations for the Experiencers Support Association. I'm the former national chief investigator for MUFON Canada and the former international field investigator trainer for MUFON in general. Welcome to the channel, and thank you for joining us this evening. Super chats and donations are welcome. Every little bit helps keep the show and many others free for all of you experiencers out there. Tonight's theme is fringe topics. Our guest for season 4, episode 16, is Jess Rogge. Right? Nodding. Rogge like pierogi, she says. Okay. Awesome. So Jess Rogge is a broadcaster and podcaster from Southern California. She studied broadcast journalism and film production in college, but just realized that the mainstream news environment was not the right fit for her truth-seeking style. Interesting. Stepping away from the mainstream, she decided to create her own shows to discuss the topics she wanted to explore. She's the host of the Rogge Report News, where she covers the latest in fringe news. Her radio show, Escape Assimilation on Fringe FM, explores consciousness, conspiracies, current events, psychedelics, paranormal, and more. She dives into a variety of topics to help find out the truths of reality that we live in. And you can find her at www.jessrogge.info. All right, perfect. So, Jess, put on your tinfoil hat. How are you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. Oh, am I unmuted? Okay. No, I'm doing great, Ryan. Thank you so much for having me. I had such a great time when you were on my show, and I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. Thank you. No, it was good. Yeah, it was good. It was when was that show? It was a while ago.
It was probably at least 2 months ago now.
It was good. It was fun. Fun times. Now now you're in my house. Here we go.
I know the tables have turned.
That's it. So we're gonna get to know you a little bit here, and then and go from there. So as always, we're gonna start with our icebreaker, which is brought to us by CC. So I'm gonna play your little jingle here. All right. So our icebreaker tonight is this will take up the whole show. Good one, CC. What are your thoughts on the UFO hearings in the USA and the future of ufology? There's the whole show right there.
I watched the whole hearing, and I watched it, and I took out sound clips I wanted to, look at, and I made my little notes about it. I know a lot of people were. I'm going to open I have some notes here too. Of course, Jess has notes on the UAP hearing. What have you done? See? But I know a lot of people were disappointed because they felt like, they were going to reveal something. And that was never really what was going to happen. It was just to kind of review and show where they are. And I think people have to realize, too, that it's a lot like, the government is run. It's a bureaucracy. This stuff is going to take a heck of a lot of time to put together. And what it felt like, I'll give you the overall feel. So if you've ever worked in an office and been in a meeting and then your boss is asking you questions about a project, that's kind of how it was. The congressmen were asking, let's see, whatever the guy's name is. I got it here. Don't want to get it wrong. We had Ronald Moultrie, who's the principal advisor to the Secretary of Defense on intelligence, counterintelligence, and security matters. And then the other guy that was there was Scott Bray, the deputy director of naval intelligence. So what they kind of did was present what is a UAP to these congressmen. They presented the data that they do have, and they sat there and they answered questions that the congressmen had. They did show one video that people have not seen very much, is this metallic orb shot from an F-18. And so that's what they were kind of illustrating to the fact that it's hard to have good footage of a UFO. I'm trying to not go, because I can go through the whole thing, but I'm going to try to at least cut it to like the more UFO-y stuff. One thing that they did bring up was they talked about the green triangle video. I don't know if everybody's familiar with that. So what they said is, with their analysis, and they agree with Mick Weston. I mean, they didn't say we agree with Mick West's analysis, but it's a similar analysis of the footage, stating that these triangles in this night vision shot through a night vision monocular lens with the digital SLR camera, they said it was bokeh. So they did acknowledge that these were unidentified drones, but they were not flying triangles. What they said is, it was an effect from the aperture being a triangular shape, so the light that's hitting the sensor is triangular shaped. So they talked about that. Let's see.
So they mentioned the Tic Tac, I think, slightly.
Slightly. Yeah. They talked about that. One of the big... Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Let's see. I was going to say one of the interesting things that they did bring up was Congressman, what's his name, Mike Gallagher, brought up a couple of things that, the community is probably familiar with. As one, he brought up the Admiral Wilson documents, and he asked both Bray and Moultrie, had they heard of them? And they both said no, which either leads me to believe they didn't hear of them, or they have heard of them and they were gonna just say no. Mm-hmm. So that I question. I don't know. But so what Mike Gallagher did was he introduced the Eric Wilson documents to the Congress, so that's going to be on record now. Mm-hmm. But is it real? We don't know. I don't know if it's real.
So I watched it too, from a Canadian perspective, just trying to get an idea of how it affects. I mean, for me, it looking at it unbiasedly, it was a perfect setup to neutralize everything. So to put it on the table, this is what we know, this is what we don't know. We're looking at it, we're talking about it, it's here. They didn't really elaborate, but they kind of debunked a couple of them a little bit, and they didn't mention Elizondo. So, and they didn't mention any of the other things. So they kind of just streamlined and focused on the situation, which is good, because all that stuff is kind of in the mix of interpretation. So from a factual point of view, it's nothing, but it's also huge because it just focused on what's important. That's why a lot of people are disappointed, because they were expecting to get the reveal, but it's actually like the start of perhaps looking into it, either identifying it or expressing the truth of it all. So things that I know from behind the scenes is I have done some work and I've talked to some people. I'm pretty sure that beyond a reasonable doubt that spherical orb is a mylar balloon. And also, siding with Mick West, following him a lot too. I'm on the side of things of that not being extraterrestrial in nature, and then them not mentioning the Tic Tac at all, or very slightly, and not putting focus on it, saying they figured it out as well. Within that, it essentially said these three big things that these other people are allegedly famous for are not important. So what I also noticed after the fact, watching that live, going out my day, come back, look at UFO Twitter, and all of a sudden I see 1,000 different interpretations of the hearing, but the facts haven't changed. So in real time, I saw how these people, our people, just changed it to be in their favor. But the facts haven't changed. So what is your opinion on that, being a journalist as well? Like the spins.
No, and that happens with every single thing. It's the hardest thing to not put your own interpretation on it, and just to give the facts. Now, if you ask me factually, yes, from a regular journalistic standpoint, this is, it is kind of a big deal to have, a hearing about this in this space. Having the government ask these questions, members of Congress ask these questions that they want to know about UFOs. So you see that there is an interest, and there is they know something's happening, so they want to find out more. So I think from that point of view, just looking at it and watching them, like it was very bureaucracy or whatever, but them setting it up, and that's what you have to look at. If you look at it, what it is, that's what it is.
And it was perfect for what it is,
Yeah.
and from my perspective too. So where do you think it's going to go from here? What's next?
I think it's going to be whatever X amount of months before they reconvene and kind of give their progress report to Congress. And I think it's going to be like that until this really gets going, because it seems like they don't even really have the date or the system set up to survey the people in order to extract the data. That doesn't seem to be there yet, from what I'm understanding and hearing from the meeting. And then plus they also have, so I'm sorry, I probably went on a tangent. Where do I see it going though? That's where I see it going. I see it taking a lot of time before we start to hear more. And I think that's what people have to realize too. In the whole long stretch of this whole darn thing, it's been more than 50 years since there's been a public hearing or that the U.S. government has looked into it. So in the grand scheme of things, this is a big move and only the beginning to finding out more, or finding out that, wait, maybe they have misidentified stuff. Maybe there is stuff we don't know about, but we're going to find out. I mean, probably, if they tell us.
Well, there's 50 years of declassified documents that have leaked since that, prior to these meetings, and according to the hearing, they've not heard of them. So how is that possible? How come they're not communicating with each other? What are your thoughts on that?
That, I think, is just a problem of the government. And you think of a big company, right? And that's what the government is anyways, right? And you think that this communication, interdepartmental communication doesn't take place. And even then, even in the hearing, they were they were asked, are you talking to, the other departments? We want to make sure too that some of these, we are not chasing our own tail with some of these. Mm-hmm. So I think that's probably going to be a big hurdle with how much compartmentalization goes on, because we do have projects, they don't want to share information. If everybody only knows a little piece, nobody knows the whole story.
Mm-hmm. And yeah, it is creating a momentum. So in Canada is now piggybacking off of this as well to get us into the media. That we have politicians that are coming forward and asking the questions too as a result of this, which is something that couldn't have happened if this didn't happen. So other nations are hopping in on the topic. But are they, in your opinion, with what which we haven't got into because we're just kind of talking about this stuff here, but are they preparing to inform us, or are they all working together to cover it up again? Where do you think? Because everyone has to work together, because it's been exposed. Too many people are talking about it. Too many questions are unanswered. It's gotten to the top. They have to do something.
I think they have to do something too. It's just because as the technology gets better and better, we're going to have drones flying all the time, unmanned drones, and we have people going to space all the time now. We're going at least low Earth orbit, and if things are out there, people are going to be seeing these things too. Mm-hmm. So part of me thinks that, yes, they kind of want to prepare us, because once the cat's out of the bag, then what are they going to say? Well, I'm sorry, humans, or we've been lying to you this whole time,
But they could just come up at any time and tell us that. Why do we have to go through proxy through the government? Does the government control them, or do they control us?
Well, I guess when I think about it too, too, for me, myself, do I need government disclosure to let me know that there's something out there? No. But there are a lot of people that need some sort of disclosure from the government to believe that there is something out there.
Then once that belief is there, where do we go from there?
Where do we go from there? But then, see, I think because it opens up a lot of things. Then what's going on? Who are they? Where are they coming from? Why are they visiting us, or why are they here? Are they just passing through? But for people who've been researching it, you think, well, they've probably always been here.
Which means there's been plenty of opportunities for them to come out in the open and say, "Hey, I'm here."
Yeah.
So my feeling with the reason why I'm bringing us down this path is just kind of see where we end up is I don't see this being connected to aliens or UFO or like the extraterrestrial subject at all. Something else completely different, because if it is government craft, they have to be equally secretive, so that way adversaries aren't aware of these technologies.
Yes. And so if you think about it from that standpoint, right?
Mm-hmm.
Isn't it interesting, and wouldn't you want your enemies and to believe that there's some sort of alien craft flying around in the sky, and that's not a U.S. top secret freaking jet or something, or some sort of drone?
It brings everybody together. It's a common threat. And then what happens next? Well, we need to put weapons in space. Once weapons are in space, then what? Do they attack us, or do they attack them, or is it just a precaution? But where are the aliens?
Where are the aliens? Show me the aliens. But I don't know because, as you think about this, the longer you're in this, you're like, well, it could be this, or it could be this. And all these possibilities are possible. Mm-hmm. I hope you don't hear my dog. He's like trying to get out of the room really bad right now.
No, I don't hear anything. Everything's good.
Okay.
That's all good. Okay. So do you want, we can keep going down this rabbit hole, or we could, talk about you.
Either way.
Yeah. Well, we'll kind of segue into the fringe stuff. So I'm curious to know. So the first question I always ask is, why are you the way that you are? So you're very knowledgeable in the subject. You have the background in that, but how do you take your journalism into this fringe, if you will, this particular genre? So walk me through your life, if you will, about how you got to here, and then we'll go from there.
All right, sit back, everybody. No, I'm just kidding. So when I started, so I guess I've always been attracted to the strange and the fringy stuff. I grew up in a family in which, a lot of people, were talking about ghosts and, seeing ghosts and, seeing relatives that had passed was very normal, in my culture that I grew up in. So it was like, oh, you see grandma over there? Cool. Then grandma's there, she's visiting, and it was like that. So it was very like, if you saw grandma, she was there. We talked a lot about dream visitations from relatives that passed. And so for me, like that kind of strange part of reality, the spirit world or whatever energetic levels we have, I was aware of that early and made comfortable with that. So, have all the weird experiences. I never had a UFO experience or anything, but my sister did. So I always so a lot of my research and questions were because I was wondering what happened to my sister, and we would research it together. And that's why we kind of got so deep into it. But so I went through normal high school, whatever. You kind of put these things away for a little bit. You live life, you go party, you go to college, and, I went to film. I guess I'll tell the broadcast story. So I got into broadcast journalism in junior college, and I worked on a local show for a few years and, kind of learned everything I could. And then I decided I wanted to, get a formal education. And so I chose to go to university where the broadcast journalism program was also in the film school, because I was also a big movie nerd. So I wanted to go somewhere where where the broadcast school wasn't in the journalism school, but it was in the television school. So I was able to concurrently take both and learn both. But I guess going from like this more like student kind of run grassrootsy type show to going to a big university where I was with, people who were like, let's do this, I'm ready to get into a broadcast journalism career, I realized I was like, oh my gosh, I am not like these people. A lot of them seem like they were really there for like learning on camera experience and things like that. And I was like, oh man, I don't feel like I'm these people, So it's kind of started there when I was like, oh, going into a different environment, this is more what I'm going to be, this is more with what it's going to be like. And then, the more you're in it, you're like, oh, well, okay, you kind of learn how it's going to go. And essentially you end up becoming a talking head on a screen that's reading a teleprompter of something that you didn't even write,
Mm-hmm.
So thus, I'm kind of nerdy. So, I worked at a video game network for a little bit. I worked at a production company office for a little bit. And then, I was like, yeah, kind of done with that for now. And I started doing photography and stuff and kind of getting back into like learning about the paranormal and things like that. And, getting really into like late night, paranormal radio. And, it just kind of grew from there, and I was like, well, shit. Excuse me. I said that.
No, go ahead. You're good. Okay. It's not radio.
See?
Go ahead.
Curse. I've turned it off. I turned it off. I can turn it back on. But yeah, so basically, I kind of went through this thing where I went on this kind of thing where I was like, I want to learn about, after college, I wanted to learn about like psychic stuff and ghost stuff and all these different things. So I took all these psychic development classes. I did all kinds of, I learned Reiki. I was doing mediumship. I was doing readings. And then I was like, and then I had enough. I was done with it. And I left that. And I was like, you know what? But I was always kind of still looking into UFOs. So that's when I kind of hit UFOs hard. And I said, you know what? I'm going to put aside all this woo stuff. And I'm just going to be really, journalistic about it and look at it like at a nuts and bolts point of view and look at the data. And so that kind of got me to where I started doing the news for the Fringe FM and doing the Rogge Report, which has since switched to Escape the Simulation, because I'm now more exploring more consciousness-based stuff. I still talk about conspiracies, current events, and all those kinds of things, but this one is, being a little more open and exploring more of the world now.
Perfect.
In a nutshell.
No, that's great. That's impressive. Along that whole way, you said you never saw a UFO. Your sister did. But did you have any other type of experience? Paranormal, cryptid, extraterrestrial, anything?
Ghost. I've had ghost experiences, like lots of like weird things. Let me try to think of a good one. I always feel like they're not that great once I get through the story. But I don't have anything that's like super awesome about a ghost story. It's just like seeing a lot of paranormal activity, experiencing a lot of objects moving.
So like poltergeist activity?
Poltergeist activity. I had a poltergeist haunted office that I used to work at. And
what happened there?
Oh man. So this is great because it was an office of about, I'd say 6 women. In this old office building. It was built in the 60s. And from what I believe, it was an old dentist office was what suite we had, right? But the first time I went there, and because I'm sensitive to ghosts, right? So the first time I went there, I was like, God, please don't be haunted, because I feel like these people are going to hire me and this place looks so haunted. Well, little did I know I was right. So one of the big ones I remember is I'm in my office with my boss and we're sitting at her desk. So I'm sitting, like, if she's at her desk, I'm sitting here. There's a bookcase against the wall to the right of us. So it's in our eye line, and there's nobody else really in the office walking around or anything. But this thing starts shaking violently, and it's the only thing shaking in the office. And she grabs me and she's like, Jess, did you see that? And I said, no, I saw that. And, we jump around, we look out the window. Were there any trucks going by? Anything like that? But it got so cold in there when it happened. We were like, what the heck? And we figured he liked to stay in the accounting lady's office because she was rarely there. So the ghost liked to, or the energy or whatever it was, liked to kind of go in there. But it was interesting because it would go to other suites. It would go to the bathroom. Like you'd hear the door open when you were in the restroom, and nobody would come in. Ladies would come in early, and they'd turn on all the lights, because you come in, you turn all the lights. He'd turn all the lights off.
How do you know it's a he? How do you know it's a he?
All the women assumed everybody would say he.
Okay.
So we said, okay, it's a he. I don't know if it was actually a he, but then they started calling it George. So people would greet him or it and start saying, hi, George. And when one lady would do that, then he wouldn't mess with the lights. And when we got a new person, it would be, it would increase a little bit. So, we had a secretary for my boss, and the boss, it's like they had an office, and then you go in, with the little secretary sitting outside, and she starts sending me a message over Messenger. She's like, Jess, I swear to God, I'm here alone. I can hear typing on the computer, and I hear the drawer opening and closing. And I was like, it's okay. It happens all the time. Don't worry. Just go in there and tell it to stop. And she'd do that. And she did it a couple times, and she'd sit down and it would start again until more people came, and then it stopped that day. But I'll tell you this, my boss hired so many different psychics to try to cleanse and clear whatever was there. And of course it never left. It just, it was just there. I bet you it's still there to this day.
It could be. How do you know that it's a poltergeist? So, have you investigated? Have you done anything to try to figure out that it might be something not paranormal, or you just accepted it?
I guess we just accepted it, that it was paranormal. Okay. What do you think would type a keyboard?
Wow, geez, putting me on the spot. So, it really, a lot of things can make noises. I don't know all the variables of stuff like that too, but I would put a camera in the room. There's lots of opportunities with so much activity that you could have captured it.
So one thing, I'll tell you, the one thing I saw that tripped me the F out the most was, those bag, that a reusable market bag. So it's got a fabric handle, right?
Yeah.
And so we had a couple bags. We had popcorn from a giveaway we did at a convention. So we had a couple of those bags filled with those. And I'm talking to the lady sitting right there. So the bags are right there in my eye line as well. And I shit you not, the handle lift up on the bag, lift up. So that is the most unexplained part of the whole thing. Had I not seen the handle lift up on its own, I think I could have been like, yeah, no, it's an old building. Things shake. It's weird. I don't know. But the bag arm.
That's like a giraffe would have to go down and up.
And up.
And that's a pulling motion.
And it was strange. It was as if somebody lifted it and dropped it.
And you're present?
I was present.
Anyone else present?
It was another lady, but she was facing me, so it was happening behind her.
Okay, interesting. Do they have any psychic connection? Any involvement with consciousness? Anything like that?
Yeah, that lady did. Yes. Okay.
Do you think
she was a yoga instructor, very spiritual lady?
Might be possible that you guys may have been communicating with each other telepathically, and there was some energy between the two of you, and the bag just moved?
I believe it, because this was an office just filled with women, so I feel like there was a lot of this psychic female energy going on in that office, really.
And then that would explain it. If it's not extraterrestrial, it's not ghosts, it's just you guys, not realizing that we have the the abilities to do these things. And there's science that shows we have auras. There's science that shows that we can telepathically communicate. There's a lot. We can remote view. We can do a lot of these things. And I always find with poltergeist activity, a lot of the times there is some sort of psychic phenomenon associated with the host. It's just not realized because of how we're raised in media. And you being brought up in journalism and learning and doing your studies like that, you're studying the things as we were taught and as we were told. But where are you getting your research from? Because there's nothing accredited out there. It's not like we have schools that say learn to be a paranormal and UFO ghost hunter or whatever you want to call it.
No, there's no.
So where are you getting your research from, and how do you fact check it as a journalist to be able to believe in it?
What do you mean, like ghost or
anything, any of the phenomenon?
Well, I guess, I would talk to you more as a human than on that aspect, because I think my journalism thing is another thing. It's like I cover current events and things like that. I don't really produce my own news, if that makes sense. I'm not journalistic in that sense. I'm more of a news broadcaster.
Okay.
So, but as a human, how do I believe these things? Because I think a lot of these things happen, and and you can't explain how they happen or why they happen. And I think for me, part of my personal journey has been talking to as many people as I can about their experiences as well. Because yes, people do want data, and yes, they do want hard facts. But two, a lot of these things are happening through experiences as well. And sometimes they're very real to people. And I think by speaking to as many people as possible, like I know you do too, is just to find out more. Because I think the only way to really know is to go out there and talk to people and find out. Because I can read 100,000 books, and that's all other people's research too. But I know when I talk to these people, I talk to them, I let them speak, I make my own conclusions after the conversation. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you got to consider the source. You go straight to the source.
Yes.
Right? You want to hear it from the people that have these experiences, and then you get this judgment, and then you compile your data, and then you conclude. So with all the people that you've talked to in this phenomenon, where do you believe? What do you believe is out there?
I don't, I guess it's shifted and changed over the years. I went honestly from believing it, yeah, there's aliens, to no, there might not be aliens, to, yeah, maybe there might be aliens, for example. As far as like paranormal stuff, like, I think just having experiences with loved ones who've passed, whether, it be an apparition or a visit in a dream, for me, like that makes that real. And nobody can tell me it's not real because I know what happened.
What if they were connected?
What do you mean?
Ghosts and aliens. What if they were the same thing? Sure. Connected? Is that possible?
Sure. It's possible. Like, and then I have a lot of thoughts too. I wonder if a lot of these are human created projections, egregores or even tulpas sometimes. You go down all these different routes because we don't know about the actual power and how much power our consciousness has and how much the group consciousness has to create things. It's immeasurable. So we don't know. So are these things real? Are these things that we are actually projecting that we see in the sky? When you're asking for a CE5, is an alien coming, or is that something you're projecting that, with a group of people? Mm-hmm. Also, are there beings on other dimensions? Who knows?
Maybe you're communicating with another human who's meditating somewhere else.
On another planet, or on this planet. People wonder if ghosts are actually just people who are like astral projecting out of their body and walking around, or maybe that Victorian ghost is just a time slip and you're seeing somebody in another time and they see you. The possibilities. I'm sorry. If you want, there's so many rabbit holes to go down, Ryan, on this. It's like, I don't know, man.
It's all good. I think there's enough evidence to suggest that it's all it all exists. I think where we're at now is not determining whether it exists or not. It's determining what it is.
Yeah, what is it?
And where it comes from. Cece popped in. She's one of our members, so I'm going to throw her comment in here. She says, I often consider, what the hell is that? Egregore? That's it. As a possibility when considering consciousness, it's hard not to. Sorry, I've never actually read that word out loud.
Right?
So good. Well, thank you for commenting. If you guys are members, put your comments in there and super chat too. We'd love to get your feedback. Okay.
Yes.
So you're hard to crack because normally people have experiences, but you don't. But you're analogical because you know this. You know what's up, and you're talking like a broadcaster too. So you're coded. So I'm trying to figure out a way to do that. So let's talk about your website, Escape the Simulation.
Sure.
And let's focus, maybe dive in a little bit about how that name came about, and maybe elaborate on maybe what I'm projecting or thinking, the possibility of this being a simulation.
Yes.
Okay, so let's talk about that.
So the show was called like the Rogge Report for a couple years. Like I said earlier, it's focused on very newsy, very, nuts and boltsy kind of researchy things. And then I think I kind of hit a point where I started, maybe it was more than a year ago, where I just said, I can't keep looking at the same thing. I feel like I know there's more out there from all the people I've spoken to, from all the things I've read. I think, I know there's more out there, and I know if I broaden what I look at, I'm going to be able to find out more about what's going on in the world versus just being hyper focused on this nuts and bolt aspect of this thing. And for me, because I've always been like curious, I like to look at all kinds of things. I want to learn about everything. So I think what happened, and I guess, so I was suffering from a lot of anxiety and depression, and I was on a lot of medication, and I didn't like it. It zombifies you. I would rather deal with the anxiety. However, I had started about hearing about microdosing. So I said microdosing psilocybin. So I decided to, put it out there, and basically, and then it came to me, and I was able to start, doing a regiment, and I would measure, write down, and track everything to kind of see how it was working and what it was doing for me. Now, my anxiety has gone. It's not gone. My depression is not gone, but I find it more manageable now. And that was my point of doing all the psilocybin. But what I didn't know is, as I'm doing this too, it's kind of, I guess, creating these mental connections inside your brain, because it does repair different your brain a little bit and makes new connections. That I think it started to create these kind of, or allow me to be more relaxed, to have more time to reflect. And I think not being so anxious and sad all the time, I was able to start to connect and see that there was more to the world than what we can see with our eyes. I started saying, you know what, I want to look into remote viewing. I want to start, I know the U.S. government looked into it. It's another thing I want to look into. I'm very interested in it. So I started talking to remote viewers. I started trying remote viewers, and trying remote viewing myself. And I thought, well, if it's just consciousness, if we are just consciousness, and if we are able to project outside of our bodies, or even see these things in our mind's eye to some sort of accuracy, not accuracy, but even be somewhere in the neighborhood that's right, is kind of interesting. And so that's one thing I very much like to explore on the show, because for me, seeing that kind of work, or at least kind of work, because it's not, they say 100% accurate, and I wasn't super scientific. I tried it a few times, and I've talked to a few people. But even if you were to entertain the possibility, then that means somehow, even when I'm sitting here, I'm able to in my mind's eye see somewhere else
Right.
as well. So we are more
Are you able
than
to see places you haven't seen before? Or is this just recalling memory? Because like you can imagine while you're laying in bed, like what your bedroom looks like, because you see it all the time.
you've been there, yeah.
You've been there, but can you see places you haven't been and then verify that it exists?
Well, I would say remote viewers can. I have not gone that extensively myself. I do love talking to remote viewers. The technique I tried was controlled remote viewing. So that's with a target, which is written down by somebody who has the target, and then you are provided the number, and so you focus on this number, and then you write down or draw whatever comes to you, and then you send it back, and then it gets verified. So it's like the image or whatever is connected to the number, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. I've always been interested in remote viewing. I haven't had a lot of time to kind of dabble into that. I have many things to do in the day.
You're busy. You're so busy.
Very, very busy. But if I were to dip into some sort of consciousness, I think remote viewing I would be comfortable with, because I think that is probably the only one that we could fact check in real time, because you can use it here.
Yes.
Right. And it's that's where it's tough when we get these experiencers that are off world or think they're off world. They might be in a different place on the planet that we can't see, that we don't know about. And or they're dreaming in their lucid state or near death experiences, all these things. It's the same. It's still the mind going into a place which we call the ultra spectrum. So the with remote viewing, you can use reality and test it, and then train your brain to be able to do that. And then in theory, should be able to go somewhere else. But how would we be able to verify the difference between that being real and just imagining it from everything we heard and everything else we believe? How do we know?
I mean, all we can do is, I have not done super extensive, but I know that there are people who have done some research, and I think I think I'm only mostly familiar with the controlled method, and that's all we can do. I mean, if you're just provided numbers and you're supposed to provide, and then you provide the location, how do you know what is it even supposed to be?
Right. And then if the person on the other end is going to actually tell you that you saw it, it's not like Peter Venkman in Ghostbusters, wrong every time, right? So yeah, so there's a lot of variables in there. It's hard.
Very much.
And I find with experiencers a lot, and especially trying to investigate, there's that you believe that something happened. You can't prove it, but you can't disprove it, and then we're just kind of left with leaving it the way that it is. It's very complicated, it's very hard, and I would like to use remote viewing to trust that enough for it to be a tool to confirm other places in the world, and then eventually lead that to other places in space. But then we would need to colonize that, which means we would need to get access, which means we need to get out of this planet. But a lot of us in these chairs, we don't have access to do that.
Yeah, go to space.
So there's a great amount of people that have the ability to remote view or use their consciousness to tap into this to somewhere, but we're limited with verifying because we're unable to fully explore. So is that because you get into conspiracies and stuff and heavy into the government stuff. So we're kind of spinning into a direction of where do you sit on the whole, government is just telling us what we want to know, and there's a whole vast of things that we don't know about, or the world is actually not as exciting as we think it is, and the government's just trying to remind us that there's nothing, it's boring. That's the truth. because they have to give us an answer. They have to tell us that. And it's like the boy who cried wolf. You know, they may be lying about some things, but are they telling us the truth that aliens just don't exist? Like, it's where do you sit on that? I know it's tough.
It's hard. It's hard because, you know, there is, you know, the nefarious big bad government, you know, and then there's also, like you said, there's the boring government where they're like, hey, maybe there's nothing. I don't know. Like, but
who says they're bad? We say they're bad.
We say they're bad
because we don't trust them. And we don't trust them. Why? Because we don't understand, or we don't like the changes that they make for the greater good, which they're responsible for taking care of the entire world, not just you, the entire world, which is so that UFO Twitter example after the hearing is a prime example of how we react differently when we expect and want something different. We want to know that there's another life out there. We want to know that there's life after death. So why do we want to know that? Once we know that, how does that change humanity?
You know, I mean, if we're saying there's aliens, does that change humanity? Or if there's, are we talking about other life? Now, what if we find out that there's just other life on other dimensions or just slightly around here that we can't see? If they say, right, if we knew that there's another being or another race, intelligent beings out there, that it would, you know, bring us all together. But I don't think so. I think, you know, humans are assholes. People are tribalistic. Whatever we perceive, you can just look at countries, right? Just countries, different countries just have different cultures and how they perceive the world. And because their culture is different, is bad? It's not bad. It's just different. That's how they live. So do you think if some aliens or some other race, and say they're just a humanoid race, probably even worse if they're just human, or we could just hate them just as much as we hate our darn selves, you know? So is it going to be better? What do a lot of people talk about? They're like, let's get that technology from them. How do we even know they have great tech? We don't even know what this technology
But
is.
if they have the technology, do you trust the government to use it? The entire government?
The entire government? I believe if we found the technology, like if you know, what the government would take it and hide it, you know, reverse engineer it, you know, and use it probably for war.
And they're using it for war to do what? To protect themselves.
To protect themselves and make their money.
But it's still keeping us safe in our individual countries. So our countries are doing all these things in secret to protect themselves. I mean, on a whole, is that wrong? Especially when we live here. But then yet, you know, there's wars happening in other countries and things like that. Who's right and who's wrong? There's a problem there. But there's different beliefs, there's different systems. But are they bad or are they good? Or are they just having a problem that they need to sort out? It's a global phenomenon. It's something that will change the entire world if proven. And there's a lot that goes into a yes. If they say aliens exist, that means ghosts exist, that means Bigfoot exists, that means all that stuff exists. They have to explain it all. So it's going to be easier for them to explain this away than to tell us that it exists, which doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means we are not ready enough to have majority of us respond in a positive way. So we take the pandemic for an example. If that's real or not real, doesn't matter. You know, it's done, it's over. Who knows? Lots of things going on, a lot of confusion there. But the facts, you know, came from the government, and we have a variance of people believing that to be true, and a variance of people believing that it isn't true. But the facts haven't changed, and that's the one source, the only source that we have. And we have different, you know, we're going sideways. Now, what if that? We'll get into conspiracies. There are some theories about that being a test to see how we would respond, or perhaps prepping us for something else. So what are your thoughts on that? Is that likely?
It could be likely because, you know, if you think about the beginning of the pandemic, And I remember because, I'm a conspiracy person, I'm a conspiracy nerd. So I was on, I'm always on the message boards and different forums. And I remember back in like December of that, 2018, right? Or 2019 before it started. And I'm like, yo, I'm seeing all these videos from China. People are like freaking dropping dead. They're locking them up. So basically, if you look at it from that, right, there was this planting in the conspiracy world to see where it would go. So immediately people like me are going around and telling people, oh shit, you guys seeing this? And then so that starts to spread that way too, right? And then people start telling each other, and then the news is starting to talk about it, and then people start to panic. Whether it's real or not, they were able to measure the way people would respond. And you could see how, and then, even with whether you believed it or not, but there were seeds sown of distrust on either side. These people are selfish because they want this. These people are selfish because they want this. If anything, that whole thing has caused so much division and hatred between people who were friends, people who were family. For what? Because of some BS?
So, if it was planned, there are, and it is real or not real, just say, it would make sense that the outcome would be unity. And I feel like we failed to do that. And because we failed to do that, with many different reasons and there are many things that need to be fixed, perhaps we as a civilization are not ready for anything moving forward. So if extraterrestrials was on the docket, that was the next step, I would, if I was in a position of power and that, president of whatever, something, I would be like, okay, I need more people to be in favor of this because we don't want this negative reaction. Because we want more positive. Because if it was meant to destroy us, we'd all be gone. We wouldn't have control over that. So if it's accidental or if it's just organic, there's the greatest survive and all that other stuff like Darwin and all that stuff. However you want to explain that, I ain't no scientist, but you get what I'm saying. Evolution, that's it. Survival of the fittest. That's what I was looking for. Or it was planned. It was planned, at least structured enough that majority would survive, which means we're needed. And if we're needed for something, then that's where the control comes in. What is it that we're needed for? Are we needed to pay taxes, continue to pay off the debt? Is that what our life purpose is? Or are we being prepped for something else? There has to be something. So if extraterrestrials exist and there is some sort of integration that's about to happen, we need to become better people to be appealing for that so we can accept that and understand it, if that is the intention. But if the intention is to harvest us and do things and feed us to all these other things, all these negative things, they could just swoop in at anytime and do that. So I'm trying to make sense of it. You know what I mean? It either all exists or none of it exists. And if it does exist, this is the way they would happen, and then it makes sense. So the problem is not the government, in my belief. The problem is how we interpret it, is how it affects us as a result of us not getting the answers, which is justified. But if we change the way we think about it, we would be able to act more positively, which is why I use that poltergeist phenomenon as an example to turn that back and say, what if it's not something scary or mystical? It's just you being more magical yourself, and you're just not focusing more on you, you're focusing more on it. And if we focus more on each other and change what we're doing, then there's no need to fight. Okay.
I love that.
So that's a Canadian philosophy right there. So that's being the peacekeepers. So I'm just trying to time this into the commercial break. I don't want to cut it off.
You got a few minutes.
I don't want to cut it off, but I mean, let's talk about conspiracy. So
sure.
What is a conspiracy? And then when we come back from the break, we'll just pick random conspiracies and go from there.
Sure. So a conspiracy is basically a group of people who want to do something. And a conspiracy can be throwing a surprise birthday party, but that's not the kind of conspiracy we are talking about. This is a conspiracy theory we're going to be talking about, and generally it's a group doing something behind the scenes for a certain effect with the population. So that's the kind of theory we're going to be talking about tonight. And whether they're true or not, conspiracy theories, what they do is they make you think, at least. Some people believe them all, but I say, you have to also use your judgment and look at it in a kind of a critical eye and, be able to pull yourself back. Because, I don't think there's reptilians running the government, but I could be wrong. Because Ryan says, it could be true or it could not be true. So we don't know.
And if it is true, then there are controlled somehow in some way that we don't know about it. But at the same time, there are experiencers that are communicating with them telepathically or consciously, which means they could very well be on this planet, not somewhere else, because we don't know where our mind goes. So there's a lot of knowns that we do know in theories. It's still all theoretical. But if we were to take the most logical theories and the sciences that are kind of being developed around it, it's more likely that this is the only place, which makes this a simulation.
It is a simulation.
Well, I don't know for sure, but I'm just saying the signs point to simulation. It makes sense.
It probably is.
So how do we know for sure? We got to check out, right? When we die, we know.
That's when you know.
And then there's near-death experiences and things like that too, and it's really challenging because some people can't wait to find out. And then what if we're wrong?
What if you're wrong? I think about that too. What if it's not? It's just it's all just been a story, and we die, and it's just lights the fuck out. That would be kind of shitty too. I'm hoping there's more.
So it's very important that we study and we take in, it's possible, but also not possible at the same time. Like Schrodinger's cat, it's alive and dead at the same time. How you open the door, so we got to be mindful of that. But we still explore, right? So we'll pause right there, but we'll continue. I almost had it word for word, but we'll pause right here, but we'll continue after a message from our sponsors. If you're listening to the audio only version, head over to youtube.com/the Experiencer Support Association. You will see the video that goes with the audio. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat podcast by the Experiencer Support Association, and we will be right back.
It's your business. It's your property. Your assets are worth protecting. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services specializes in patrolling and inspecting residential or commercial property against fire, theft, vandalism, terrorism, and illegal activity. People and buildings are monitored to prevent crime. Keep your property, your people, and your assets safe from threat. Our elite staff are dual licensed private investigators and security guards. Blacklight Investigative and Surveillance Services. Go to blacklightiss.com.
The same thing that draws aliens to our planet is the same thing that draws us to others. Exploration, curiosity, sustainability of life. That's why we go. It would make sense as to why they're visiting here.
Travis! Quit playing around, man. Get back here. Travis!
The last thing I remember was this numbing shock. Stunning sort of a feeling. Very powerful.
Get away from me!
I was just out of my mind with fear, just screaming the whole time.
It's been theorized that aliens prefer remote areas because they don't want to attract attention. Whatever it is that they're doing, they would want to do that in a less populated area. There are multiple accounts of the same thing from people from all over the world. People that do not know each other, do not live in the same cultures, and they're all looking up. They're all seeing things in the sky. So it would be naive of us to think that we're
Ryan is one of Canada's leading new UFO investigators. He conducts and oversees UFO investigations on a constant basis and was really taken by his research. He's compiled a tremendous amount of data regarding UFOs in Canada. Just as interesting, he really goes over how UFO investigations are done and what are some of the mistakes that people make when they submit evidence. Note for starters, don't edit your videos or photos before you send them. If you want to hear more follow-up conversation between Ryan and myself, you can go to richardolanmembers.com, where we have a candid conversation on ufology, the paranormal, and more. And remember, while we learn and grow and search for the truth, let's be good to each other.
Welcome to the Observation Deck, a state-of-the-art, one-of-a-kind virtual platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus, just like you would in real life. First, you install the application and design your very own unique avatar. Then you're free to explore the various areas of the campus at any time from anywhere. There's so many areas and activities to choose from on the platform. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, a large expo hall, a movie theater, a nightclub, an art gallery, and even a beach. Come attend a conference, or take a class, or hear a lecture. Meet new friends and interact directly with presenters. It's all right here on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Where in the world will you go?
Have you ever wondered, or maybe just thought to yourself, if there were others just like you? You know, people with extraordinary abilities, psychogenic advancement, and perhaps unique intuitions. Maybe you just wondered if there were other people who experienced unimaginable, unexplained, or even unusual and paranormal events. Are there people who have more questions, more fears than answers? Well, you're not alone. You've never been alone. We believe you. Sign up for EA today by going to tesacan.org/EA. That's TESACAN.org/EA. Welcome back. You are listening to Beyond the Tinfoil Hat. Did you know we have a private community chat for members of our YouTube channel? To become a member, you will get bonus content like exclusive videos, including bloopers, behind the scenes, and members-only Q&A. Also, if you've ever experienced an unexplained event involving the paranormal, UFO, extraterrestrials, dogman, or any other paracryptid, head over to tesacan.org/reporting system. The others who have already reported be that example that proves we are making a difference. And if it wasn't for those people and those reports, we would not be able to do what we do, and for that, we thank you. I will make an editor's note here. The website is almost done, so those links will change in the future. But for now, the old links should carry on to the new website. So, Jess, how you doing?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. It was a good break. Nice break.
Are you hearing any squeaking? Because I do have a dog just out of my reach with a squeaky toy.
Nope.
So if you hear it, let me know. I'll grab him so he can't squeak.
No, I think everything's good. I got animals too that kind of come around and make noises. It's all good. All right. So conspiracy theories. We can go anywhere.
Theories.
You throw a conspiracy. Throw one out there. What do you want to talk about?
Oh man. There's so many. I'm like, where do we start? I always like to say one of the biggest conspiracies, I think, is kind of these things. Cell phones and technology are stealing, basically getting people addicted to these things and not kind of living in the real world anymore. We're in this kind of technological revolution right now, that's never been seen in any time in history. VR, AR, everything is technologically connected now. AI is scrubbing the internet, learning our, Zoom, for example, is, testing this new thing where the AI can, track your face and track your voice tone so it can tell you the emotion. So if your employee is like kind of being blah, it's all on record right there. So, I mean, things like, so the biggest conspiracy is all these tech people really just wanting to make money and, bring us into this technological future. And, where we're basically, I mean, we are covered in surveillance now. I've got a camera here. I've got a phone, everybody has a phone. It's always recording us and listening to us. So is it a conspiracy? I mean, this is really happening. We have no privacy anymore.
I think the conspiracy would be that they're not using the technology as they claim they are, which means the privacy in which we think we have may or may not exist. I mean, there's laws. So, I mean, I got multiple devices in front of me right now that's recording all this stuff. We are recording this right now. This is agreed upon, right? But it's just it's when we aren't plugged in. I mean, it is possible for people to hack. It is possible to do things and all these other things. They are concerns, but the laws they can't like use it in an unlawful way. So even though they're collecting it, how do they plan? What are they using it for? What are they collecting it for? And when we download these apps and do all these things, we never read the policies, which is accept, let me in, and then we go. We give permission and consent to do that. We can't really avoid it. So how is it a bad thing? Because we're evolving.
I guess we're evolving. But what I see is, we are just turned into statistics for marketing so that they can sell us the crap that we don't need. So we keep like Fight Club. So we keep working jobs we hate.
So you help with that algorithm by responding and saying, I don't want to see this ad. If you just ignore them, then they're going to continue to see it because it's programming. But if you actually work with the analytics and say, I don't want to see this, not interested, and you tell them, then they're going to start showing you more things that you like. So they're also starting to learn. So that way that helps so people can buy ads. And that's not just product. That's also perhaps services, and charities and things like that. So they need to understand that. So that way it helps direct the market. What if they needed to get UFOs to everybody's attention? They have, that's why Lou Elizondo dumped in UFO Twitter, because that's where everybody is. He's nothing anywhere else but the news, and people that watch the news, they don't even know who he is.
Mm-mm.
Right?
No, they don't.
But
there's regular people, no.
It's just a streamline for marketing. That's why everybody's there, and so it's smart. It's a tool. It's used by people who understand business. But who's at fault? The people that are listening to it, or the people that are using it?
A little bit of both, I'd say.
A little bit of both. And is it bad? Or is it good? We just think it's bad because we don't feel confident with what we're doing. I'm okay with everyone recording everything I say if I'm mindful of what I'm saying. If I make a mistake and I say something wrong and it's recorded without me knowing about it, I might be a little bit worried about it, but I would try not to say those things. You get what I'm saying? So that's where the conspiracy comes from, fear, because we're afraid that if it's true, it'll be used against us.
I think one thing I find uncomfortable, right, is maybe if a crime happened, it felt different. But, just walking down the street and knowing how many people's Ring cameras are recording me and my dogs as I walk by, I'm just it's a little uncomfortable. I'm is somebody going to record this and look at my ass later or something? You know what I mean?
So that's a thought. That's your thought.
Exactly.
But what happens if you got mugged, heaven forbid, and then all of a sudden you got 6 or 7 cameras that can use to kept them, right? You need it. It's a double-edged sword.
So I guess that's the thing. So I'm if somebody tried to murder me, if somebody tried to murder me, then thank goodness there's a camera in that car and they can catch the guy. So I guess there's but you see too, Ryan, what happens is you get this conspiratorial type of thinking, which I'm illustrating to you right now because you're in the world and you start to think that way about everything when everything maybe isn't so black and white and it's a little more gray.
And we're also judging, though. You're judging the environment that you're in. You're judging, the way that you're feeling that day. You're judging a whole bunch of things, and that thought comes in. When in reality, they might not even be using the data. They might not even be doing all these things. It's possible, just like aliens is possible.
Yes.
But they may not actually exist.
That's true too.
Right? So that's the whole thing with conspiracies. It's just rooted to fear. So let's see if I can do that again with another one. So
okay, try it. Let's see.
Well, you got to give me another conspiracy.
Okay. What about? I'll say. I feel like that might be okay. Okay. So what about? What do you think about the GMO thing then?
Okay. Well, elaborate. Explain from your perspective. What's the conspiracy there?
The conspiracy is that they're changing, the DNA of different foods, right? And in turn will change us. When is it because they're just trying to make these things that grow bigger and, are less eaten by pests so that we have more food? Or are they trying to poison the population?
Well, okay. So if in order to poison the population, they would have to somehow have some coded system that the people that they don't want to kill don't eat those apples or those foods. So that would be hard to manage on a global scale if we are needed to survive, just like the pandemic. I mean, and if it was meant to wipe us out completely, then the effect would be the same. But there's that variance. So they would have to, if they were doing that, then there may be a need to see how we build an immunity. So that way, because these are possible things, there may be a lack of resources. So information we don't have. They don't want to tell us that we're going to run out of food one day. So they're trying to find different ways to feed us so we can survive and move on. So we have to adjust to that. So genetically modifying the food would assist in keeping food not only here, but making it in space, making it on other planets. So there's a need for that. We just think that the government is going to attack us because we feel like we're worth being attacked. Who's going to, what are you doing on a daily basis that you're talking about that someone's going to, poison your apple?
Hopefully nothing. I don't think I talk about anything that much for them.
Well, you get what I'm saying? So that's where it all comes from. And I get there too when I'm fighting for disclosure and doing all these other things, thinking like, oh my God, like Men in Black are going to show up. I'm going to get a check for car bombs, like all these things. You go there. But that's just me worried because I believe that, this is this alternative truth. And we can get there, but we got to come back.
I think that's the trick. That is the trick.
Mm-hmm. Okay, another conspiracy. Oh, you're muted there. Yep.
Yeah, I just had to adjust real quick, and if I adjust too much, you pick it up on the mic. What is another good let's see, what's another good one that I can give you? Obviously the whole
game show. It's kind of fun.
We've talked about COVID. So what do you think about the 9/11 conspiracy?
Wow. What's the conspiracy according to you? Because you got to give me the framework to talk.
I guess I'll give you the framework because I know a lot of people's entry into conspiracy theory was at least of a certain age is 9/11. I think before that it was like the Kennedy assassination or things like that. Mm-hmm. But 9/11 is the big one, and I think too it's because people wanted sometimes I think with conspiracy theories, sometimes bad things happen and sometimes bad things just happen and they're, because somebody did it and they do want like a bigger reason or something more behind it other than there was just a bad thing that happened. Mm-hmm. But the conspiracy is there's the building 7, right? And they said that it was a controlled demolition because of the owner of the building saying like they had to clear it or let it go or drop it or something along those lines, that the whole thing was known about. And then that building 7 was set up to detonate. And then there's also the theory that there were people up in the Twin Towers on these empty floors setting up bombs prior to the airplanes crashing into it. Now, I'm not saying I believe in any of these things or not. I'm just telling you the different conspiracy theories behind it. Some people say, how could the pilots with that little training be able to fly these huge jets into these skyscrapers?
Yeah, because
There's
like
a
that
lot.
one.
I got more.
Well, see, that one is interesting. So there's layers to that. So it happened. It's not. It's something. The conspiracy is the reason as to why all those things lined up the way that it did. So these theories of them not being adequate to fly the plane still possible. A demolition in another building could be simultaneous. We don't know. It could have been coincidental, but it doesn't help when this thing happens. The way that it falls afterwards, appears to be as if it was there was explosions on the bottom. But like there's different scientists and every engineers weighing in on what it appears to be, but the facts are only known to the individuals that decided to be involved in that. So with the way that it was designed or it fell through, there's a lot of human involvement where it's very probable, in my opinion, that it happened solely by the individuals that did it and there's no influence. That does not mean that an opportunity was taken at the same time to capitalize on something that was horrible and it was planned, because if it was planned, it's a horrible thing if it was planned. But what message was it meant to be? So there was a cause and effect. Many things have changed because of that event.
Yes.
They had to change. And then we can come back to the pandemic if that was planned, because things have to change. Things are changing. You throw UFOs in the mix now. Why? Because the world has to be rebuilt anyways. Why not give everything out on the table? Because we have to rebuild anyways. So if it was planned and so many people had to lose their lives, it was calculated to make a change for a specific reason to advance us in the future. That would have to be the reason why a horrible thing had to happen in order to make us better. So the people are making a decision, a difficult decision maybe, and they have to live with that. So we need whistleblowers to come out and kind of confirm things like that. And some have, some haven't, and all these other things. There's plenty of opportunities where people come forward and say that. But a lot of that is our conspiratorial mind thinking that all things are happening. But there's also, where this one's interesting, is people do their own research and their own citizen science and citizen journalism, and they come up with alternating facts that don't make sense based on what we know. Such as, how did the plane melt when the beams didn't melt? We understand the heat and all these other things. We know that. That's what we're told. So is it, so there's a bunch of things that are circumstantial, but still can't be proven nonetheless, unless the government confirms. Now, will the government actually come out and say that it was an inside job? Because there will be a cause and effect to how we react if that is true. We revolt. So if it was needed, there's a lot of things that need to be done to keep it secret. And if it was a secret, my bet would be 2, maybe 3 at the tops actually know what happened. And everything else is just us trying to live with it and live with the trauma and move on and try to figure out how to do that. And that's the same thing with the pandemic. If it was planned to keep it a secret forever, 1, maybe 2 people tops have to know the truth, and then everyone else just follows orders, has a feeling, can't prove it, and then they either blow the whistle or they don't. So that's how I feel about that. It's very uncomfortable because it's like but it is. I understand how that becomes a conspiracy because a horrible thing.
Yes.
But what if it just was a horrible thing, and now the world has changed due to it, and we become better than that. So it's universe, it's divine and meant to happen. and apply that same context to the pandemic? What if it was meant to happen divine in unity? We want to work together. We want to stop fighting. That's the message. We're fighting with each other. So if you want to go back to the reason behind that, why was there a need for another country to damage another country? And why would there be a need for your own country to set that up to change your country? So what changed? Money, stocks, all these other things. Was that the plan by them, or is that just a consequence due to a horrible thing and we had to bounce back?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's
a
just
tough
a
one.
consequence. Yeah, it's hard because even now, you think about the pandemic and what's happened to the economy and the inflation and things like that. It's not just that. It was all these other things that happened. And could all these things be planned? People say, they go, wow, there's no way. So, I mean, if you think of this, like, is there like a Lex Luthor or some sort of evil genius, like Jeff Bezos guy, like pulling the strings? Maybe anything is possible. But two, is it just like sometimes bad things happen and it's just because a bad thing happened, because humans can be both good and evil.
And people have to be paid. There has to be insurance. There has to be reasons for people not to blow the whistle, because there's so many ways to protect people. So we segue into ufology, and we'll talk about whistleblowers, I guess, in a sense. Is it possible that how do you believe that someone that is blowing a whistle is in fact blowing a whistle that exists to be blown, versus just monopolizing in an environment in which no one can take control of it, and then after the fact we just happen to be talking about it, and so kind of, like, let's take Lou Elizondo for an example, whistleblower. Believe him or don't believe him, on the fence, all these other things. That is a conspiracy. The conspiracy of Lou is like a thing, on whether or not he's telling the truth or a part of it or it's planned and all these other things. There's what he says, there's what he does, and then there's what we see, and then there's what's going on. So does he really know, or is he just telling everybody that he knows and the truth is actually happening?
Man, it makes you wonder, right? Because what does he say? He says, if you knew the truth, somber.
And anybody can say that.
And I'm like, well, what does that mean?
Yeah,
like, what does that mean? Like, we're inside of a petri dish on a table in some giant's lab? Like, that would, like, that would be kind of somber, I guess, But, or, we're just in a computer program and, they have to update the system soon and they're going to wipe us out. I don't know.
If he knew the truth.
Yes.
Or his version of the truth, whatever parameters were in place to allow him to be able to give this information out would have been so tough that he would be gone, or he wouldn't be able to do that, because all those things are possible. All those things happen. So allowing him to do so, A, must be planned, or B, can't be controlled because it doesn't exist and he's nobody. The reason why he's so almighty is because of us talking about him, us watching, us believing, us giving hope. Now, that's no different than me going around doing tours and saying things, you going around on podcasts and saying this is what I'm doing. We create these environments with the audience that's listening. But we're no different than Lou. We're no different than anyone else. And what makes him different is the association to the branch in which we have not confirmed definitively that he's been part of. So is he lying? Or is the government lying? It's both of them are possible. Then you get into a position where this guy has been doing it for so long that it becomes comfortable, and he slips, and then he starts making mistakes. Is it because he's comfortable and he's out of resources? He disappears because it's not profitable anymore, or it's part of the phase, part of the task? Or is he genuinely fibbing this whole time and he can't take the heat because there's too many people paying attention? He could be right still, but as a human being, no one wants to endure that stress, especially if he knows he's right. He did his part, he did his purpose, he's doing what he's doing, he's done his part, he made a movement, step back, let the world take over. And some people can believe that and remember that, because now it's in the government's hands, which is successful in the sense that he played a part to get that to happen. But what if that was planned? and if it was all planned and everybody's in on it, why do that?
I think that's the biggest question, is the why, right? Because if you look at it and you can see, like, because I remember when Lou started coming around. I remember when he came on UFO Twitter and the whole TTSA stuff, and people were like, I believe in Lou, and I wanted to jump on the Lou bandwagon too, but it was hard, because it's like, well, who is this guy? What makes him different than, any other person out there, like you said, that's claiming to know things? And what I think Harry Reid did say that he worked for ATIP or confirmed something along those lines, but I think that's the only confirmation that we kind of have. So I do agree with what you're saying, like, too. It's like, well, how do you know, and what is the motivation behind it? So you think about it, right? So is it to start this movement? And so I take my kind of conspiratorial mind, right? And so what is the purpose of the whole thing of these UFO hearings? Is to get money, right? Because they need money to be able to run these programs. What does the U.S. government, we do a lot with military industrial complex. We create a lot of weapons of war,
And who pays for that? We do, through taxes. So we need to be convinced to buy into it.
Yeah, so if there's aliens, don't we need the ships to go against these aliens? Don't we need to build these things? Doesn't every country need these things now to fight these aliens? Oh, cat.
Yeah, it's my cat. Well, I agree. And so put on my PI analysis, psychoanalysis hat on, but I mean, they can't prove him right, can't prove him wrong, because it's their word against ours. And especially when we apply all these things that we know, and it's definitely possible, it's definitely plausible. If he's taking advantage of us, then it's a bad person, but we can't really prove that. That's a feeling, we don't know, because he never said anything directly. But if he's part of a plan, the role in which he's playing, looking from the outside in, without focusing on emotions, without focusing on what he's saying, just the influence, the way that people respond. He is the marketing guy. He is the salesperson. So whether he's receiving money or not, he is receiving attention. Every like, every follower, every vote is going to come to something that he needs in order to rack up some sort of exchange. So if he produces a book, that's great. He has so many, he's built that marketing so well that people will buy his book. If he's working for the government to get our attention, there's so many people now focusing on this, now talking about it in the news. All that stuff is part of the plan to get more people aware of it. So that way, when they say, hey, we're going to open this up, we're going to have to pay a little bit more taxes, everyone votes for it because it's freaking exciting. And then all of a sudden with that, we have weapons in space and we just paid for it. So that is happening. But how do we know that? Because the hearing didn't say what Lou thinks is really happening or claims is happening, that Lou actually knows something that isn't happening. Because if he can only confirm, if he's in this NDA thing, if it's a proper NDA, does not allow you to say that you have an NDA. I just want to put that out there. If you have a non-disclosure agreement, you are not allowed to say you have a non-disclosure agreement. You just say I can't comment. So I'm just saying that's reality. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying it, but that's something, that's a really good scapegoat. No comment, can't do that. It's under investigation. We say it all the time. That's media training. So not saying he's lying. I'm just saying the evidence shows that he is a professional at what he's doing, and he's professionally gathering up people to believe things in order for a result which has yet been revealed. And his connection between things, is very intricate, because if he is a part of the big picture, then he should be named this new director that we haven't got a name for yet. If he's not, then again, he's no different than any other organization trying to get a piece of the pie and take advantage of the experiencers that don't have answers. We market, we do the same. We have likes. Our show is monetized. There has to be some sort of back and forth. So Lou, as much as Lou is a savior in this sense, he has to get something from it. And if he's getting shit on, if he's getting attacked, and he's doing all these other things, the stress gets to him, so he pulls away from it. Understand, because he's a human being. But why did he do it in the first place? Was to collect information or something, some analytical approach to use it for something. The question is he using that for good, or is he using it for bad? Because we can't, if it's true, then he works for the government, and now everyone follows him and gives the information to the government, but yet we don't trust the government. So why do we trust Lou but not the government?
That is the question, right? And I think that's what divided a lot of people in the community on Lou, is the fact that, being part of the UFO kind of conspiratorial community, people don't trust the government. They don't, just from personal experiences or things like that. But for some reason, a lot of people are like, yeah, Lou, he's cool. He worked intelligence. Let's welcome him with open arms,
And then at the beginning, that was a great thing. But then that ended maybe a week or two after that. And then he's just been doing all these things in between. So like, how do we know that his task, how long was his contract to do this task? Maybe
yesterday.
What's that? Until yesterday? When he said he's done his last podcast. But like,
yeah.
I mean, like, who cares? Like, great. Go on that's good. Like, I mean, you helped, you did your part. If you created a buzz, you have people going, I'm talking about you. So your marketing
We're talking about it right now.
So this is free marketing for you. Huh? But, move on. We have to move on because there's other things going on, and we have to come to the answers. We can't rely on one individual to solve that. And I have a following myself, and a lot of people are asking me to solve the world's problems, and I can't do that. I don't know. I got to look into it. I'm not going around saying I have secrets and NDAs. I'm going around telling everyone I know nothing more than you do, but I'm going to try and figure it out. And so the problem is us, is what I'm coming to. Okay.
Humans.
You can believe Lou, you cannot believe Lou, but if you don't believe Lou, don't attack each other, because the difference of opinion, that's like religion, like it's no different. We can't prove him wrong, we can't prove him right, but don't attack the people that believe one way or another, because that story resonates for some. That story does not resonate for some. I'm going back and forth because I'm trying to figure out, I'm analyzing him as an individual, trying to understand the person he is. And that's why I'm able to pull and see times when he's being manipulative for profit. But at the same time, you can't judge him because others do the same.
Yeah.
So it's tricky. It's sticky. He's not bad. He's just very good. And why? Because he's a counterintelligence agent.
He's a counterintelligence.
So he's doing his job. He's doing his job well. It's the motive and the intent that we're having a hard time determining, but that's none of our business. And if we don't, but we feel it, that's where consciousness comes in. If we feel negative from that, we know that is not something we want to be a part of. We stop doing that, and we change when we start to feel differently. So everyone started to feel differently about Lou because Lou started doing things differently. He started attacking people, making fake accounts, doing all these things that made people feel differently. But he could have been stressed. He could have had enough from the attacks because he's trying to do a good cause. He might be trying to do something, and he's not doing it in the right place, focusing his energy elsewhere right now. It's a good move to move away. Maybe he's not cowarding. He's just I had enough. I did my part. I'm going to continue to focus on where it matters,
Yeah.
But he's still no different than anyone else doing this. You do this, I do this, many other people do this, right? How come we can't get 10 million followers? That'd be awesome.
I don't got no 10 million.
We all got books to sell. We all got things to do. But so how come we're not working together? Okay.
That's true.
There is have you seen that Phenomenon or whatever?
I haven't seen it. No, not yet.
So there's this new website that's been floating around. It popped up, but then everyone started asking questions about it, and then it hasn't really, I think they're building it or whatever, but it's linked to the Stars Academy. It's linked to Lou. It's linked to a whole bunch of things. I took a look at it. I went inside, bought a membership, and it's literally a clone of the MUFON data. So which is the the UFO stalker stuff. And the reason why I know that is because I work for them and I've seen it and I worked on the program and I looked at the two side by side and I can see a duplicate. So all those associations and connections, I just want to predict and say that, somehow I think the why has to do with this program because it's money. So if we use it, then these people, to stars get the money and all these other things that are associated with it. But if the government does create a database and they need someone to use it for, then this might be something that they would subcontract in, but they would have to tender. So if the government decides to do it their own way and cuts Lou out, then he's going to create his own platform that others will follow and report, and then he's his own, which is no different than what I'm doing, no different than what MUFON's doing. So what I've been seeing is this slow build to compete and remove MUFON from the equation. Mm-hmm. And if they remove MUFON, is MUFON in on it? Did MUFON accept that defeat? Because they're not fighting either, right? MUFON has I'm doing some predictions here for the first time. So you go back to this show after July when the symposium happens. Maybe MUFON announced some sort of partnership and all these things happen after the fact. But from what I've been studying and what I've been seeing, this pattern exists. I'm willing to bet that it has something to do with that. But it's not wrong because the stage has been set. He didn't get what he wanted, so now he's going to come out and have his program, launch this book, and say all these things that may or may not be true. People are going to buy it. He's going to have his money, and then we're not going to have any answers. And then people are going to report to him, and then he's going to provide his own reports and give that to the world. Can he do that? And can he do it successfully? Will that help? It's possible. It's no different than MUFON. It's no different than us. But he has the momentum. He has the connections. And he has the respect to do good. There's opportunity there. But at the same time, if he's bad, he also controls the power of the people because he's now getting their private information to do what? Counterintelligence from the CIA and all these other stuff. So just as equal as he has the power to change the world, he has developed enough power to destroy it. So how, you get what I'm saying? And that's me going both sides.
Yeah, no.
So do we trust this man enough to whatever he puts in out there that the experiencer is going to submit? So what I'm calling out is when you are an experiencer and you're making reports and you're using these things, ourselves included, MUFON, whoever you choose, remember, that's your info. So don't provide anything you don't want them to get. They're recording it, so they'll get it anyways. But if you give it to them voluntarily, then who knows what else is going to happen. That is a conspiracy of all conspiracies.
That is a conspiracy. Maybe. Possibly.
I might have another one at the end of the show, but that's kind of me. I kind of went on a tangent myself, but taking the opportunity to bring that out because you're following this too.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like I spoke to him once on a panel and, and it's hard to get a read on the guy because this is what the guy does, And, I tried to look at him and I was like, trying to read his energy, but it's like, you can't really, it's at the time before he got angry at anybody,
Mm-hmm.
But,
well, it started with the Who's Lou.
With Who's Lou. And
I assisted with the background on that just to make sure that the information he had was available to use without being penalized.
Yeah.
So it was good for public consumption. I withheld information that I had because it was on the private sector. But the thing is so we got to the point where when that blew up, Lou just focused on me because I'm an investigator. And I got blamed for all that stuff too, but I had no involvement. The guy who did the documentary, which is Manny, he built the story. He did it all. He just did the work. All I did is said, yep, you're fine. You're safe. You're not going to get sued if you use these documents. That's all I said. That's all I did. But because I was associated with that, so many people got mad because there were so many things going on and doing all these things. There's a private investigator and all these other things and blah, blah, blah. And then this conspiracy happened thinking that I was responsible for all these other problems. Meanwhile, there's a whole bunch of other things and other people got doxxed, but they thought I doxed these people, but it wasn't me. They took opportunity because they had a reason to blame me. Why? Because Lou acknowledged me and tried to say that I didn't investigate properly and he had to confess, but he acknowledged me. But I did nothing other than have my name associated and my company associated with something, and that created a conspiracy. Then that speared into other people looking into things and other people doing things and information coming out, and then now Lou is gone. He may come back. That doesn't mean he's right. That doesn't mean he's wrong. It just means more people started thinking differently, looked into it, and somewhere along his story, he got comfortable. So if it's true, then at some point, maybe the plan was surrendered or said, you're on your own. We can't help you. You went too far. And we're pulling back. Or he just got too comfortable and started making these mistakes because he's on the top of the world and didn't think that anyone would be smart enough to figure it out. But the people that figured it out are just on UFO Twitter. He's still on the media. He's still in the news.
That's true.
And the people don't know the wiser. And it's us, the small crowd, that needs to try to, but we know that. But at the same time, you have to appreciate the person, human being bullied and then responding to bullying and PTSD as a veteran, all these other things. There's lots of human reasons for him to behave the way that he behaved. But he took no accountability. Hasn't apologized, hasn't done anything. He's comfortable with what he's doing. So that, that's a human being. Any normal, for responding to stress. Doesn't mean he's not credible. But now he's projecting himself in a new audience, a fresh start, if you will.
Yes.
And these people don't know the difference. They don't even know who he is. So seeing him show up in CTV, which is Canadian news, reading the comments, people don't even know who he is, don't even care who he is. That's the reality. There's so many people out. He's just popular inside UFO Twitter and the media. But the reality is he is not significant whatsoever. Because the people don't care who does it. They just want the answer. They don't care who wrote the article. They don't care who the journalist is. They don't care who the investigator is. They just want to know the truth. And if we all work together, we can get the truth. So Lou is playing a part and a role, and the media is pulling him in because the media chooses what type of people they allow on the news, because there's lots of other capable people to do it, but they continue to use the same people to control and monitor the narrative. So we use the media to get the news, and the government does these things, and then we do this circle, this rotation, this marketing, so that way we're, paying attention to it. So there's a sell coming, is what I'm trying to say.
Yes, I would.
And we don't know what that's going to be. Or there's a threat coming, there's going to be a manipulation, there's going to be a whole bunch of things, and he's part of that, and he's done very well, and he's manipulating and bringing it all together. As an experiencer, that's dangerous, because you're going to willingly perhaps share your information, not knowing that you're giving it voluntarily to the American government or the CIA. It's going to be masked under all these things. And MUFON is associated with it now. MUFON sold their stuff, sold information to Bigelow. Bigelow, all this stuff is connected. But there's a larger, so as popular as he was in this small space we call UFO Twitter, him leaving is not the problem. The problem is he's now in a larger environment where people don't know.
They don't know anything about it.
They don't know anything.
The UFO guy.
And he could still be right. He could still be wrong. It's just us judging and putting these pieces together because of what we've learned and what we think. So the message is, as an experiencer, report to multiple places, read the fine print, and do whatever you need to do, or investigate yourself. Try to, talk to people and try to don't give your information freely. You send a picture has geotags on it. A photo tells can tell me where you live. There's a lot of data that goes with sending these stuff when we post online, and then we're in these other things. It's really concerning. So the work that I do is with people in private. We don't publish it because we need to protect them, but I don't know. I'm in a rabbit hole. Get me out of it.
Yeah, and how do we get out of this rabbit hole? I mean, we're deep. We were deep in about not sharing your. How do we get out? How do we get out? So, what do you think? Where do you see the whole UFO disclosure going within the next 5 years?
Well, it's important because if it is true, we need to talk about it. And that has happened. That's been accomplished. Disclosing, again, I don't think will happen right away because so many things have to change. And we did not respond well to the pandemic.
That's true.
So to learn that aliens exist will create a similar reaction because that will destroy religion. That will destroy, that will put some people in fear. Those who are trying to pretend they weren't abducted by aliens will think they were actually abducted by aliens, and that will re-victimize people. So there's a lot of problems with that. So then I need to see support coming out. I need to see resources. They're investigating, they're getting more information, and all of a sudden, okay, now we're going to apply mental health services to those who are affected by the phenomenon. That's what I want to see developing before they say aliens exist, because they need to have people to take care of the people. Yeah. So if you look at the pandemic and you do some really deep dive in research, okay, and I don't have my notes here to verify, but there is evidence that shows that vaccines and all these things were developed and made before we even knew about it. So they wouldn't do that unless it was part of the plan. So, but they, at the same time, maybe they weren't telling us this information right away because they knew how we would respond. So when if you're going to fire an employee, you're not going to tell them they're fired. You're going to wait till the end of their shift and then you fire them because you don't want to have to work. Like there's things, there's strategies because we know how people react. So it's a very delicate thing. So the problem that I'm having right now is that I love that it's popular, but I don't like the people that's making it popular because I don't trust that their intentions are pure. But that's my opinion, and I don't have any facts or evidence to prove his motive because he has not accepted the challenge to sit in the chair with me. He sits on everybody else, and he's very selective on that. Oh, I have confirmed that I've gotten his attention and he knows who I am and he's not taking requests. So, I mean, there's a bit of that. If I was in his position, I would take the chair. Sure. Chew me out. Fight me on. Every time I get invited on a podcast, I expect someone to roast me every time, but I'm ready for it, and I'll take accountability for it. But I mean, I'm no different. I know nothing other than what the experiences show me and what I'm learning, and I'm trying to figure it out too. And there needs to be a collaboration. So in your news network, let's talk about that. Like where do you pull your sources? Where are you getting your news from? Everywhere. Is it credible though? Don't tell me UFO Twitter because that's not too.
No. I mean, mostly I report a lot on technology and defense stuff. Those are kind of have been my babies the past year or so. I try to avoid reporting on things like the pandemic or things like that, things that are very mainstream or being covered in the mainstream media. I try to look for more fringy things, and I love talking about ancient discoveries. Like that's something I always highlight on my news segments as well. If I can find stuff and, fun stuff too. I mean, I can't verify that there was a Loch Ness Monster sighting, but I'll report on it. If the Loch Ness Monster place says that they had a sighting, I'll say they had a sighting. Mm-hmm. But, a lot of things are scientific developments in health, space things. I cannot verify anything from space, but, I'll look at what NASA says, what space.com says. Mm-hmm. I look at other countries' news to kind of see what they're saying and what's going on. The things I try to focus on are more kind of, things that you may not see in the mainstream media and things that, will affect us. Like that, I was talking earlier about the Zoom and the AI. Well, those came from that Zoom story I talked about earlier came from Zoom, the company. Mm-hmm. A lot of the times I'm taking the information from these tech companies that they're putting out themselves in their press releases. So, it's a wide variety of things I cover, and it changes all the time what I like to focus on. And my news segment, the Rogge Report News, it's not just dry. It's opinionated. It's from my point of view. Mm-hmm. So I also make jokes. I make comments. It's not 100% hard news. You'd think a little more of, I guess, an opinion type of news mixed in with some news stories.
Are you interested in Canadian UFO disclosure?
Yeah, tell me about it.
No, I will. Our website's almost done, and when I put stuff up, we're going to need reporters to talk about it.
Awesome.
So I'll add you to the list of that when I send these documents out, and then you got something to talk about, because then
Sweet.
we share borders, right?
Yeah. No,
So, So I the database has been built in a way to show you how I just explained that to you, how to connect the dots. It's good to have a document. It's good to pull all these sources, but in order to see the patterns that I see in my mind, I've created this database. Well, I had this idea for a database. I paid some people to bring my vision to life. So my vision is now to life, where we can take a document and we can kind of see the time. We can see who's connected to it, persons of interest, who, what, where, and when. And we can search it, do all these things, and you look at it on a map, and then you start to see these patterns, and you'll be able to solve these for yourself. Which would be, and we're going to do that with Canadian documents to show an example of to you Americans on how you need to take that information and do more with it, but instead of just passing it around and commenting about it. So I'm kind of show you how you can get blood from a stone, and then I'm hoping to set that example. So we will be adding you to the list, and if you can report on that, then that'd be good. Then we'll get you on our website too.
Awesome.
Sorry, what kind of talk shop there. So I'm going to do our last section. I don't know if we're going to do after chat, because I know Stacey can't make it. So 1 second, no problem. So Stacey is actually doing a proxy meeting for me right now with another group, talking about the Conspiracies Report Association. It's happening at the same time right now. So if you're watching this on the replay or you're watching this right now, thank you for doing that. So maybe we'll do a small after chat after this, and I'll talk to the audience. If you guys want it, put it in the comments, let me know. If not, then we'll see you after. But I'm going to do my last segment because it's perfect, because we're in conspiracies. This is called Sorry Not Sorry. 1 second.
Oh.
All right, so I'm just going to dive into it, because question is, what shape is the Earth?
I think round.
You think round?
I say round. I'm going to say round.
Can you prove it? Do you know it's round?
No, because I've never been up in space, so I can't tell. I've only seen pictures, but I don't know if those are real.
So is it possible that it's not round and that it might be flat?
It's possible.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about that conspiracy theory. How is it possible that the Earth may or may not be different than what we're told, taking in consideration all the other things that we talked about tonight, where there's perspectives? Could the Earth be flat?
It could be flat, couldn't it? And that's the thing with flat Earth. It's such a divisive topic, and I think it's because the flat earthers, the people who truly believe in flat Earth, will toss you out a billion different things. And then to the point where you're like, well, I don't know. And then you start questioning it. Have I ever seen the curvature of the Earth myself? No. The only reason I have a friend who was in the Navy, and he said, part of his job was to, do the calculations to shoot the little missiles. And he told me, excuse me, kitty cat. He told me that he had to, account for the curvature of the Earth, because he's shooting this object over such a long distance that it's going to arc. And he said he had to, so that's the only proof I have, is I talked to my buddy whom I believe, but myself, I don't know.
You can still arc in a dome. Like you can still arc in a dome. It's still half of it, right?
Man, maybe we're
not. So like it has to. Can it all exist, and it doesn't exist at the same time unless we're able to measure it. We cannot measure it. It comes down to a belief, and if we have a difference of opinions of belief, whether the Earth is round or flat doesn't matter. It's the people still fighting against a different opinion.
It's true.
If you want to prove that the moon landing is fake, ask a flat earther. They do a lot of research to prove that NASA lies, and because they claim that NASA lies about faking the moon landing, which also could have happened. That's I don't know why we didn't even start there. We could have talked about
moon landing is like number one. That's like one of the big ones.
But if NASA lies about that, then they must be lying about this. So how could they keep that from us? Same way, how are they keeping us from knowing aliens exist? How do they keep us from doing all these things. And if all these conspiracies exist, because where do we get the idea? From old texts and old literature, and then all of a sudden we're told it's not true. Well, it was true then. And you go back in ancient history, which you talk about, that you dive into, the original story, the Sumerians, ancient Anunnaki, told the Sumerians, so the Anunnaki told the Sumerians that the earth was flat. They drew it because that's what they knew. That's how it was comprehended. Unless that they weren't talking about the earth, they were just talking about the Garden of Eden, which is, where we are. So the earth could, accepting all beliefs and making it possible, the section that we're in could be this simulation. And then outside of that is something else, which will still allow the earth to be round when being seen through NASA. Unless NASA is covering it up and everyone else is covering it up, because you see CGI photos of the earth all the time. There's a lot of things that don't make sense because we don't see different colors, different changes of the earth. We always see the moon black and white, but when we look at it, it's yellow. So there's a lot of things that doesn't make sense, but we can never measure that. We will never know because we're not astronauts. And we have to trust all these people to tell us the truth. So if they were telling us the truth and we're just crazy, where do we get the idea in the first place? And if evolution has changed and science has changed and we're learning things, how come we don't trust it? When we see things with our own eyes, we don't believe it. We can comprehend it, we're smart, but there's other things. So if the earth is, or if we're living in some flat plane of some sort, to make this work, this has to be a simulation. Right? So as soon as we were talking simulation, and I knew that this was like the end segment, I was kind of building all the way to just to wrap up this way, that it simulation makes sense of all things. Because when we die, the energy goes somewhere, and then all these other magical things happen, allegedly. Right? And until we're able to make contact, so that's where the thirst and that need to make contact on the other side to confirm, because we'd like to know that there's another side, and otherwise we're going to try and fight to live forever. Right? But then do we have control? So we kind of need like these UFO and these like hardcore conspiracy theorists that passed on to fight really hard to come through.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. So we'll kind of leave it at that. And I always bring up the flat earth as a social part to just remind people that they have a difference of opinion. They're neither right nor wrong in terms of what we can prove. And some of their conspiracies or facts that they use to justify their reasoning is transferable to ufology and to paranormal. It's all that. The challenge that we have is that everyone is fighting each other because they can't comprehend it or they can't understand it. And what that is fear that they might be right, because it's scary to think that we are that's the lie of all lies. That's the conspiracy of all conspiracies. If that was true, flat or not flat, it doesn't matter because we can't change it. So stop fighting each other. Work with each other, because you can learn some things by talking to these people and you'll get clues, little bits of nuggets from all these little conspiracies. There are some truth. There has to be truth in order for it to be believable. But if you pull the truth from all of it and you put it together, you'll understand you'll actually understand that. And all of that's kind of working towards a report that I'm making. So we'll save that. There's a cell there. There's a book I'm working on that will explain that. But
oh, awesome.
You can buy it if you want it, but I got to make it first. I don't have time.
You got to make it, then I'd like to hear about it.
Yeah. So tell everybody where they can find you, and then I'll do the after chat, talk for a little bit with everybody, and then we'll get CC on you to talk about some business stuff afterwards. I think we should do some collaboration. I feel like this is good.
Awesome. Okay, so everybody can find me. I'm live every Wednesday. You can find me if you head over to Escape the Simulation. You can listen to the show live right there on the homepage, or you can head over to YouTube. Also, you can find